We are the watchers on the couch. We are the voices that guide the realms of men. We are the Night's Watch. Hi, everybody. You might notice there's something a little bit different about this Night's Watch. Our pal Cal is currently crossing the narrow sea, and we'll be back shortly. I believe next week, right?
I think so, yeah.
Good. And we're here to get you through last weekend's episode of Game of Thrones, The Queen's Justice. I'm Tom.
I'm Kimber.
And with us today, from his own Game of Thrones recap show, mine is The Fury, we have Eric Monroe. Hey, Eric, how's it going?
It is going very, very well. I'm so happy to fill in for our buddy Cal. Love you, Cal. Hope you're having a great time. And I can't wait to talk about this episode because it was phenomenal.
Oh, it might be one of my new favorite episodes. At least top 3 for sure.
Yeah, for me it was too. I just had one part that dragged me down a little bit, but I'll complain about that later.
I get it. But we are here to discuss the whole thing. I guess should we just get into it?
Yeah, usually we have some segments in the beginning, but because Cal's not here, we're just going to keep it pretty simple. We will be doing some segments towards the end that you guys might remember. But as of right now, let's just get right into this recap. We start out, surprisingly, with Jon and Davos arriving at Dragonstone. They're greeted by Tyrion and Missandei. And Jon and Tyrion kind of bantered back and forth. And for me personally, this was really satisfying because I loved Jon and Tyrion's friendship. What did you think about that?
I love it very much. And in fact, I love it so much I should probably put up the slides. I'm prepared for this. One second. Cal's so much better at this than I am. All right. Yeah. So this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, so the first thing they're really asked to do is to hand over their weapons, and then you see the Dothraki come and take their boat as well and walk away with it. Did you have any thoughts about what was going on in this scene, Eric?
Well, first off, I just want to say, seeing Davos come off a rowing boat made me think of Gendry when he was trying to get away from Stannis Baratheon. But anyway, they were trying to be very cautious, Daenerys, and I completely understand why she would want them to put their weapons down. Now, should Jon maybe refuse that? No, because she wanted to show goodwill. So I thought it was a smart move by Jon. Lay him down and go see the lady.
For sure. So we also see them having some conversation as they're heading towards where Dany's at in Dragonstone. They're kind of going up this crazy wall bridge looking thing, and Tyrion says that the marriage with Sansa was a sham. He asks how she is, and he confesses that the marriage was never consummated, and Jon's kind of like, I didn't ask, and he's like, well, it didn't happen, just so you know. After that, Jon kind of says they have a little convo back and forth about how it's not been good historically for the Stark men to head south, and he says, well, I'm not a Stark, and right as that happens, Drogon comes swooping down, and he sees the dragons for the very first time, and it scares the crap out of him. Understandable.
And it was funny, someone made a comment, Tyrion was the only one who didn't have to duck. I thought that was pretty funny.
What did you think about that timing?
Well, for him to say he's not a Stark, and I was really hoping that it was Rhaegal that was the one swooping down at him, because I really subscribe to the theory that he will eventually ride Rhaegal. But still, Drogon's super intimidating, and I'm surprised he didn't. He's seen a lot weirder stuff, I feel like. So
yeah,
for him to be so, I guess it's loud, and to be I would probably crap my pants. So
The next thing that we're going to see is Eric's favorite character, Melisandre, having with the spider. She basically says that she's hiding because she didn't leave on good terms with these guys, and that she's going to get out of there ASAP. But she also puts down a couple predictions and says that she is going to come back sometime for a final time and die in Westeros. So Varys is going to die in Westeros. How'd you feel about that prediction, Tom?
I liked it. There's very little I did not like about any part of this episode. She's always been like that, and I'm wondering if it ties back into her encounter with Arya.
Yeah, she'll have to see her again too.
Right.
I wanted to ask Eric. She seemed to have some regret about what happened with Shireen. She says she's made like horrible mistakes. How did that feel for you?
I feel she deep down does have regret about it, but do I forgive her? Absolutely, positively not. You can't forgive something like that. There's no going back from doing what she did, and to be perfectly honest, just hearing her talk these days is like nails on a chalkboard for me. But I did like the scene, and I did love her when she said to Varys, I have to come back here to die one last time to die. And when she said to Varys, just like you, and he looked so like, whoa, you're telling me I'm going to die here? And he looked creeped out. I was creeped out, but it was a great scene.
He can't be surprised, though. He's always cared about this realm. So I feel like he knows he would die with this realm.
Yeah, there's another question I wanted to pose to you guys. Now, Melisandre, later on in the episode, she could have validated some of the claims that Jon Snow was making. She knows that everything Jon was saying was true. Told to stay away from Davos, she was told to not come back to Winterfell. Did you think that she made the correct move hiding?
Yeah, I kind of do, because they would have told Dany what Melisandre had done, and I just cannot picture Dany being okay with hearing that she burned a little girl alive. So I think it would have been counterproductive in the end, to be perfectly honest. Then she would have put her life, to be honestly, on the line as well, because Davos gave her a warning if he ever saw her again, he would execute her himself. And I don't know if Dany would have been opposed to it.
How are you feeling?
Yeah, I also think if she did show up, everything that Jon's saying, I don't know, because like the whole reason Jon's there is Melisandre to begin with. So if she finds out she's done horrible acts, how can she trust somebody on her recommendation?
Fair point too. Yeah.
So I think it was smart for her to just stay out of the way, as Varys does all the time. He's not one to judge. He sits back and lets things happen all the time.
No. Now TJ in the chat brought up a good point. They said it was Stannis' ultimate decision about Shireen. However, it was both of them. You cannot say she had no culpability in what happened to Shireen. She gave him the idea to do it, and you can't commit a crime against humanity like that and just say it was a mistake. I was following orders. For me, it just doesn't cut it.
I also think, like you say, like I have no doubt at one point Stannis would have never done this, but I do think Melisandre is a bit like poison, so that may very well have degraded his character.
Yeah, for sure.
Killed his brother.
Right? I say to Kimber all the time, he started to depend on what she said like a drug, and I do 100% agree with that.
It's like he needed the validation.
Yeah. So next we're moving on, and we have what I thought was a pretty funny introduction scene between Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, the long-awaited meeting of these two characters. Sunday gets on her whole introduction for Dany, all of her titles and various accolades, and Davos is great. You gotta love him. He goes, "This is Jon Snow." Really long pause. He's the king in the north. And it was great. I loved that. They start talking back and forth. Dany, in my opinion, is being a little abrasive, but extremely fair in what she has to say. I know a lot of people got on her case, but I was very inspired by Dany in this episode. I thought that she, like, the speech she gave about believing in herself and stuff was very powerful and inspiring to me. I'm a big fan of, like, where they've been bringing this character. So I'm going to defend her on that. I thought Jon was great too. But we had Davos kind of in the fashion that he used to correct people about Stannis' titles, correcting Dany, like, listen, we're addressing you as your grace, you should do the same, he's the king in the north, type thing. She asked him to bend the knee, and he will not. They talk about how his ancestors did bend the knee to the Targaryens, and she pretty much says, like, that was forever, so you should follow suit, and we can have a really great alliance, and things can go awesome for us. But John, what do you think about his opinion to turn this down?
I was a little surprised because he has bent the knee before in the past, but he is king in the north now, and like he says to Daenerys, I don't know you. I've never met you before, and you're just expecting all this fealty and stuff. So he is the king of a certain people, and he has to protect them, and he has to look out for himself as well. So I can understand him being cautious to just right away bend a knee and agree to everything that she wanted.
Yeah. I also like, we have a moment between them that I found really interesting. She wants him to be the warden of the north, and she says, I'm the last Targaryen, which...
Jon Snow, yeah.
She says this to Jon Snow, so I think that this could be something that they don't even realize is a big moment, but is a very big moment because most of us know very well by now that his father is probably...
Yeah. I also wondered why Jon didn't bring up that he knew Maester Aemon Targaryen, her relative. Like, I knew a relative of yours. He was the Maester at Castle Black, and everything I'm saying, you know, he believed in.
I think they're gonna bond a bit more in the next episode. I still hear my prediction because in this scene, or we haven't gotten there yet, right?
Do you want me to say the rest of the bit?
Yeah, I will get there.
Okay, so at this point, Jon pretty much is like, listen, none of this stuff matters because we're fighting a bigger war. The army of the dead is coming. I've seen these things. I need your help. And she's like, well, if you help me get the throne, then I can help you protect the north, you know? And he's like, there's no time for any of this stuff. Like, we're all going to be dead, and you're going to be the queen of a bunch of skeletons because the army of the dead is coming, and that's the most important.
Rule over a graveyard. I love that line. Yeah.
What happened at Hardhome? John seeing Hardhome really had an effect on him because he knows that is what is coming for everyone.
I also wanted to point out before we move on from the scene that I really liked how Dany came down and went to his level to talk to him as they got further in the conversation. Because it's a total power move. This room is built for intimidation by the Targaryens. Like, it's supposed to be, like, very, you know, abrasive, just like not a comfortable situation.
Like McDonald's.
And when he tried to take a step forward, the guards kind of, like, perked up. So he came down to him, and I liked that move on her part.
She's always been good with that.
She didn't want him to be too afraid. She didn't want him to be too afraid because she's asking him to do all these things, so it makes sense.
And she is the Mad King's daughter as well.
The Dragon's daughter.
Yeah.
And she does that a lot. Her blocking is really good in Game of Thrones. What she does with Tyrion, she always gets about the same level as Tyrion. It's really good. Real quick, we never did a shout out, and I don't want to ignore everyone in the chat because we have some great people in there. So I'm going to say hello to everyone real quick. Hello, Elise. Thanks for making it. I know you've missed a few of them, and we're so excited to have you here. Nichelle, hello. Welcome back. Hey, Mormo. Hey, TJ.
Dub.
Delisha. Dub.
Hey, everyone.
Dubs came to 2 in a row on time.
I know. Look at that.
We're going to give him a badge. Matthew Whitaker, thank you for stopping by. Billy. And if I missed anyone, let me know in the chat. I'm sorry.
So was there anything else you wanted to say about this scene before we move on to Varys coming in?
No, well, we have to talk about Davos's, like, you talk about bringing the Dothraki across the sea, because at this point, like, the only merit that Jon sees her having is her last name. But she's, like, reminding him, like, I brought the Dothraki across the ocean. I brought dragons back into the world after centuries. And this is where Davos finally, like, kind of gets his, like, stride back, and he's like, you brought the Dothraki together. This man brought wildlings and Northmen together. That would never happen. He was the commander of Night's Watch. He took a knife dagger in the heart for it, and Jon cuts him off, which is so good. And I have a prediction. that next episode, because I want Danny and John. I'm shipping it hard.
Now kiss.
I debit kiss. I think she's gonna see John with his shirt off and see how much scars and stuff, and that's how she's gonna find out.
Scars.
Yeah, what I wanted to
And
say
she's gonna
about
believe him.
Is I was talking about her power, and this was her moment that I thought she was the strongest. And what I liked about it is she's like, listen, I've survived turmoil, like I've been raped, I've been defiled, like, and I survived all that, and then I hatched dragons and took over all this stuff. So like I love that she was like, I've survived, you know, I don't want to compare like victims, but like Sansa's survived so much emotionally, and she's dealt with everything that Sansa's dealt with, and then also like conquered the world. She's it pisses me off when
she has overcome quite a bit, I have to admit. Danny has. I mean, when she was giving that speech, I was completely like, she has a very, very good point here. She was raped, she was sold, but the thing, she never stopped believing in herself, which I thought was good.
Yeah, I believe in her too.
And I just want to point, I loved when Davos said about John, you know, he doesn't have a birthright. His people picked him to be king in the North. I thought that was a very important point he made.
Yeah. I see Elise saying that she was a bit surprised that they were hiding his resurrection. I think it was because, like, his whole... his Army of the Dead thing is a tough pill to swallow, and that's a lot for her to take in already at the moment without him sounding crazy and talking about his resurrection.
Yeah.
And two, like, he's trying to convince her that walking dead men are the enemy, so maybe saying that that's what he is not such a great idea. So it makes sense to us.
Because
hold a little back,
Martin has even said that he considers John and Beric Dondarrion like Rhaelor's whites. Like,
fire rights and Stoneheart in the book. Yes, I saw that interview. I saw that, which is very, very cool when you think about it.
So as we see here, the next part we're going on to is Varys coming in and telling the news about the Greyjoy fleet getting destroyed. And she basically dismisses John and says that she'll bring them dinner and stuff. And he's like, am I your prisoner? And she says, not yet. Which I loved. That's my girl. Varys tells him what happened. We see Theon getting pulled out of the water. He survived, but again, not doing so good. Back to Reek status. And they asked him, like, did you try to save your sister? And basically, the guy's like, listen, you didn't try. If you tried, you wouldn't be standing here. You'd be dead, you know?
Which was a good point, because they would know Euron wouldn't just let him go. They knew he escaped. They knew that he probably just escaped.
Yeah. It's not like they thought highly of him beforehand.
Yeah, right.
But I also, this kind of takes the wind out of my argument that he jumped to... because he knew Euron would slit her throat if he came for her.
Yeah.
Like, if he had said, if I tried, he would have definitely killed her, then I could have bought it a little bit more, but he just lied. I don't like that.
No. They're talking about Tyrion calling out on Jon for being emo. He did, in fact, do that, yeah. Next, we see Euron, and he is taking Yara, Ilaria, and her daughter to go see Cersei. This is the gift that he promised. And he's loving that they're cheering for a Greyjoy. He says, this is making me hard, which made me laugh because right before that, I said to Tom, I'm like, when John was meeting Danny, I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, if I had a penis, it would be erect right now. And then he made this joke, and it just made it
fit in
better.
And you know, what I found so interesting about the scene, how loud the crowd was cheering to him, and how like a woman kissed him. A woman went to kiss him, and he kissed blew her a kiss back, and they were like hailing him as some kind of hero, which was very, very fascinating.
Yeah. So he delivers the gift to Cersei, as we can see here, and Ilaria's spitting. She's kind of doing her whole thing. She hasn't changed much at this point, and Cersei gives him credit openly to everybody and says he's got them and that he's a great commander. and he deserves a prize, and he says there's only one that I want, and she does in fact say to him, when the war is won, you're going to have your heart's desire. So she's agreed to marry Euron at this point.
I don't know if I 100% believe her though. To be honest, I don't know if I like. I could see her doing something to get out of it if the war is won.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure once she has him used, that she's probably going to sick Jaime or the Mountain on him. I don't think she intends on marrying him at all.
But the funny thing is, he probably has the same idea. He would probably want to get rid of her after marriage and be like the sole ruler too. So
they're perfect for each other.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I really like the conversation that they have next between Jaime and Euron, and he's like, oh, I'm a hero today. And he's like, yeah, well, you know, weeks ago they were spitting at her when she was walked down the street. So they just like severed heads, really, is the comment that's made. And I like that. That's
yeah, that was
then he starts asking really sexual questions about Cersei. Like,
you can give me advice. And
yeah,
like,
does she like it rough? Does she like it gentle? A finger in the bum.
And like Jaime's like, you and he's like, shh, later, and he just like shuts Jaime down. It's so cool.
I am loving Euron Greyjoy this season. Like, he was on last season a lot. He was only in like 2 scenes, but the way they have him, I think he's perfect. He be like last week, he truly for me became Euron Greyjoy. I think he's been a great villain so far this season.
Yes, and then we are brought to what I guess you could argue the title of the episode is named after the Queen's Justice here. Cersei is talking about revenge to the Sand Snakes. She thought of all the ways that she could kill them. Is she going to copy how Oberyn died? Is she going to copy maybe how Elia Martell died? But she decides that the best way to do it is to give her the kiss of death, just like give Tyene the kiss of death, just like Ellaria did to Marcella, and have her die right in front of her and rot and be forced to watch. This was pretty brutal. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, it's nothing like that. That has to be the worst thing, because it's not only are you gonna have to watch her die, you're gonna have to watch her decay. Like, she's literally not going to be the same thing that she once was.
Yeah.
And that's just Cersei's cruel. She's more like Aegon than Dany is, I think. So
yeah, and I'm kind of glad they went this route, because I noticed that she did have a lot of lip gloss on, and I found it very so at least they went that way with the storyline.
Dub even says pink lips in the chat.
Yeah, how about you, Eric? Do you think they saw this coming?
I would guess probably, but I mean, it's hard for me to feel sympathy for Ellaria because Marcella was completely innocent. She had nothing to do with the Red Viper's death. So there's a part of me that did feel a little for Ellaria. You know, I'm never seeing her daughter knowing she's going to die. But there's the other part of me that knows she just kind of deserved it. Marcella was innocent, as Tyrion even pointed out last week.
Even Tristan, that there was no reason for that.
And Tyene is not, which is the daughter here. She is not innocent. She's done some bad things.
Yes. So. She got that bad pussy, so you know that.
And I knew it meant something that Euron kept her alive because she's the biological child of Ellaria Sand. The other Sand Snakes are not. Yeah,
we actually didn't see what happened with Yara. I'm a little curious, but maybe they'll be getting back to that next episode or something. So at this point, Cersei's all horned up from murder, which is her favorite pastime at this point. And she goes and just grabs Jaime, kind of forces herself on him. He even says no, which doesn't stop her. She commences in blowing him. And they wake up in bed together, and there's a knock at the door. And she just opens the door and lets the person see them together, and she's kind of like, listen, I'm the queen, I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want. And she even says, she has the audacity to say this to this girl, oh, we need a change of sheets, in case you didn't know we were boning. Did you think this was a good move politically to do, Tom?
It might come back up to bite her, but at this point I think a lot of people are scared of her. Jaime's becoming scared of her. You can tell later.
How about you, Eric?
I'm not so sure it was a good move, but she's just basically like the hell with it. I don't care. I'm the queen. I lost all my children. What do I care? And I do agree with Tom. People are afraid of her, especially after what happened last season in the Green Trials. So
Yeah,
don't want to cross her.
I kind of liked this move from a writing perspective, because in the books they're very outspoken about like that their dream is to be able to live out in the open like the Targaryens did, and just, you know, be together and not have to be forced to be married with someone else. So like it was interesting to me to see kind of like Cersei and Jaime's dream come true, but like at a terrible expense, you know. And definitely that's what the story is kind of about. So it does make you wonder what's going to happen with their storyline soon.
I want to pull a comment out of the chat real quick. Marco says Illyria's acting during the scene was brilliant, though, and she had no dialogue. I think she did really well. I will say I thought it was really good, and then I watched Get Out, and that face acting without dialogue is really good.
So this person, she basically finds out that Mark Gatiss' character is there, the representative from the Iron Bank, and they have a conversation about money. He compares her to Tywin. She does not mince words. She's not dancing around the subject matter. She knows why he's there. And basically she's like, listen, I know you want to back whoever you think the strongest candidate is at this point, and that it doesn't seem like it's me, but here are reasons that you should back me. You know? And she slanders Dany, and she tears other people down and makes herself sound better and stronger. For the Iron Bank, Eric, would you be on Cersei's side?
I think I would, in the sense that she is Tywin's daughter. Tywin was very smart, and she has shown she has that kind of intelligence. And number two, does he really want to trust the Mad King's daughter? Does he really want to go that route?
I'm
also don't.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out the Iron Bank got screwed with Stannis. Don't forget, they gave him the gold, and that's a loan they're not getting back.
Yeah.
I think it would have been interesting if we got a representative at Dragonstone at the same time, and that they were backing both horses, because I would not be surprised that they're just kind of testing the waters to see who's going to make good.
They don't want to lose half, though, is the thing. If they back both, they lose half.
They're not losing anything, though, because they're waiting to get paid back. They already don't have it. They can't lose it more.
Well, she does say a Lannister always pays their debts, and are you going to get that from Dothraki and dragons, you know? So
she made a lot of good points.
Yeah, she did a good job communicating what she needed to get that job done, and I think it worked for her.
And Tywin was very good at that.
Yes, he was. She is definitely Tywin's daughter. So now we got Tyrion and Jon on a cliff brooding together. Tyrion says that it's hard for him to brood, and he wants to brood because his brooding isn't working, because Jon just looks so much better than him doing it. And he says, listen, this is where she's coming from. This is why my queen is acting the way that she is, and you have to understand it from her point of view. You're asking for ridiculous things. Like, is there anything that we can realistically give to you? Because we do want to help you. Like, we want to make this alliance happen, but you have to ask for something that she can deliver right now. And that's when Jon brings up the dragon glass. Jon wants to
Which turned out to be reasonable.
Let's not forget that they took his boat, like literally.
They did, yeah. So Tyrion.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Tyrion talks to Dany now, and she asks him about the dragon glass, and she's like, "Listen, I can't worry about it. We just lost a bunch of allies." And he's like, "I'm trying to get you another ally. Why don't you give them something by giving them nothing? You didn't even know this was here. He really wants it. Just, you know, give it to him. It's nothing to you." And she agrees to let him mine for the dragon glass,
which was a very smart move.
Yeah, and then she goes to have a private conversation with Jon, and I don't know about you guys, but I was fangirling at this point, just having the two of these alone on together, these characters. And I told Tom when the episode started, I knew that they were going to drop a ice and fire comment, and Melisandre, I think, got it right out of the way, I brought 2 minutes into the show, so I was like, okay, we've done that.
Yeah. I found interesting. Oh, you go.
No, go ahead, Eric.
I found it interesting that Melisandre like acted like this was her plan all along when we know this was not her plan from the get-go. She backed another horse once upon a time.
But if you take it as her goal has been to find the prince who is promised, then she feels like she's still on goal, even if it's not the same person, I think.
That's true. That's a good point. That's true.
So she lets Jon know that she's going to allow him to mine for the dragon glass, and she's also going to give him some men and some resources for him to do so. Some people were saying that she also might give him some dragon ass. I thought that was funny. He asks basically, do you believe me? And she kind of dodges the question. She's like, yeah, you should get to the mining. And that's, did you guys have any comments about that scene before we move to Winterfell?
I like the glance that she gave at the very, very end. Like she gave like a look back, like, like almost like she was kind of like sizing him up, or maybe even looking at his butt. I don't know. But I kind of like she looked back.
He's going to get it.
He's going to get it.
To do.
And a nephew.
Yeah, right. So then we go back to Winterfell, and we see Sansa actually doing a relatively good job as a leader. She's pointing out things that they've missed. She's trying to figure out rationing supplies. And amidst her doing this, here comes Littlefinger. Starts trying to give her advice, and at first she's not interested because she's been kind of tired of his shenanigans for a little while. But then, like, Tom noticed that even with the sound design, focusing on what he's saying, all the background noise drops out, and we hear Littlefinger giving this advice about basically thinking of every possibility that can happen and playing them all out in your head so that anything that happens, you've already seen it before, which is very much just like a verbalization of how Littlefinger definitely does things. And it was an interesting insight to have him put it into words, really. And
it kind of defines the chaos is the ladder kind of thing that we know him so well for, that like chaos is the ladder, but you can climb each rung if you prepare yourself for each rung kind of thing.
And Littlefinger has a quality about him that when he's giving advice or he's talking, he makes you almost like you want to listen to him.
Yeah. And I'm with Delisha. I think it was pretty good advice for Sansa that's going to help her along the way. She's done a great job of remembering lessons and things that she's been taught along the way by these manipulative characters. And this was a good piece of advice that I think could really help her out in the long run. She gets a call at the gate, and it's Bran, and he is extra weird now. This was the part of the episode I did not like. Yeah. I thought Bran was creepy and really vague, and I just was not a huge fan of like this decision to do this to Bran. It didn't really seem to bother you though, Tom. What do you think?
Well, in remembering the how they played the Three-Eyed Raven, he was very detached and stuff. So I feel like the more immersed you get into the Were network, the more like less human you're going to be, and I think they did a good job of captivating that. Like, I understand it's different and out there, but I also think it's being true to the character and what they would go through.
Yeah, the chat is hard disagreeing, and they're gonna be on my side. Everyone's saying that he's boring,
three-eyed douchebag,
robotic, creepy fuck. And yeah, he tries to explain to her the Three-Eyed Raven thing, and he's kind of vague about it, and then he brings up her rape, but he's also super vague about it. He's like, you had a wedding, and your dress was white, and you were beautiful. Like, any freaking wedding, you can say that. Like, what do you think, Eric?
He could have brought up any moment, and he had to bring up that moment, the night she was raped, probably the worst night of her entire life. Like, I'm with the chat. I found it to be extremely creepy. I mean, Tom has a point that is true, I guess, to the Three-Eyed Raven, but that moment when he brings up her wedding night was just bizarre, weird, creepy. There's so many other moments. Someone brought up, he could have brought up, I saw you at the Vale making a snow castle of Winterfell. He could have brought that up, but he brought up the night she was raped. It was very bizarre.
better examples, especially because she spent so much time in the Godswood that he would have plenty of opportunities. Like, oh, you spent every day in King's Landing at the Godswood, and he would have no way of knowing that. But I think that would make more sense. I don't know.
Yeah, but he says he knows everything now. That's what he says.
So I'm going to move on from this, like I wish the show would have done a little quicker, and we're going to go to Jorah, who is cured, apparently. The Archmaester is checking him out, and he's like, you got some rest, and the climate's helping you out, because it sure does look like somebody peeled all this crap off and put some ointment on there and healed you. And he declares him no longer infectious and releases him. He's free to go. Did you expect him to get healed, Eric?
I expected him to get healed. I don't know if I expected it to be this quickly. By episode 3, I thought maybe it happened later in the season, but I did think he was going to get healed by his Grayskull was going to be cured. I might still think he's going to die, but it's obviously not going to be by grayscale. But I'm also curious. I don't think we're ever going to find out how Shireen's grayscale was cured, because it obviously wasn't done this way.
Yeah. Seems different. What about you? Any comments on that scene?
I would be curious if they the physical attributes of Grayscale was healed, but he'd still go crazy.
That'd be interesting, because they didn't do anything.
Fascinating.
Mind, yeah. But he's basically busted instantly. Maester Ebros is like, yeah, I'd like to see you in my office a little later. Jorah says he's definitely going to go back to Dany. He thanks Dany and Sam and says that they're the reasons that he's alive right now. And they shake hands, which is kind of emotional in itself, because he hasn't touched another person in quite some time now. And he leaves, man. Like, he's out of there. He's a survivor. I guess the only adult survivor of Grayscale I would know on record.
Thank you, Matt. He wanted tamed Grayscale warriors at the battle. I wanted the same thing.
Well, they could go to the ruins of Illyria and get some stonemen, I guess.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
So then we're on to the scene with Sam getting scolded a little bit, and while he points out that he was forbidden to do so, he also says that, like, this took great skill, and there are seasoned maesters with, many links who would not have been able to successfully do this. So he doesn't really get punished, but he doesn't get a reward either. He gets assigned to take care of these old scrolls and recopy them. Now, a lot of people are talking about the potential contents of these scrolls, and maybe it's the Maester's intent to direct him to some certain sort of information. Let's start with Tom. What kind of information do you think that he might find in these scrolls?
Well, it depends on how long these scrolls have been, because I don't know, like, the lifespan of a scroll. If these scrolls are only, like, last as long as a king, then it could very well be a letter about Rhaegar or Lyanna, or some kind of evidence of their marriage. If it's something much older, it might pertain more towards the Night's Watch or the Long Night and another way to help out. But I think it's one of those two.
Well, these could have been copied more than once too, so
that's why I'm saying they could be old, they could be not original copies, but I can't think of it being anything else of importance.
Yeah. Any guesses from you, Eric?
Yeah, I think it could definitely have something to do with Rhaegar and Lyanna. I mean, if I had to guess, I would guess that, but it could be something else. It could be something about the Night's King, something about the Children of the Forest. I mean, something way, way back that we don't even know about. But if I had to guess, I would say something with Rhaegar and Lyanna. That would be my guess. He's looking at these scrolls. They're making him look at these scrolls.
All right, so then we're at Dany's war room, my queen, and she wants to fly off and destroy Euron's fleet herself on the back of Drogon. And they're like, but you'd be alone. And she's like, I sure wouldn't. I would have 3 dragons with me. And they do point out that they want to err towards the side of caution, because even though it would be hard for the dragons to be killed in this situation, it could be quite easy for Dany herself to get hurt or killed, and she's far too valuable in this whole thing to be lost in this way. Do you think that this is alluding to other possible dragon riders, and they're just trying to point out how valuable a couple other dragon riders could be?
Yeah. John and Danny are gonna kiss, and they're gonna ride off into the sunset on dragon. That's the end of Game of Thrones.
I mean, there's a lot of rumors that Bran is going to be one of the dragon riders, and I've always assumed he was going to warg into a dragon, one of the dragons. But we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know, because again, we know that Tyrion's made a saddle for Bran before, and I think Tyrion's the one who's going to figure out how to. Well, like, they haven't really done that. Danny barebacks them, so.
Yeah, he wants a dragon saddle, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, well, because they dropped that first season about the saddles and stuff, and I've thought since the beginning that was going to be a reference. But
we want Gendry to make dragon armor too. We've been on that. That'd be cool.
That would be really cool.
I think that Bran will maybe warg into the dragons at least once, maybe to save Jon, and then Jon has to ride Rhaegal out of there, and that's how the attachment forms. Maybe Jon will braid his hair, and then they'll touch the tail of the dragon, and then he could tame it Avatar style.
So Matthew Whitaker is asking in the chat if we think that Dany is mortal like a human, and yes is the answer. On the show, she's fireproof, but in the books, she's not even necessarily fireproof.
She's like heat resistant.
Yeah. Like her hair burns off and stuff when she does those
in the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to mention one thing with Bran real quick.
And sure, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. In season 3, when he's doing one of his warg flashbacks, we see a shot of a dragon, of a shadow. We don't know if it's in the past. We don't know if it's in the future or what it is. But everybody assumed that shadow of the dragon we see in Bran's warg flashback was Bran in the dragon back in season 3.
Yeah, that's cool.
Interesting.
I dig it. So Tyrion, we get to the point, and Tyrion is giving us the rundown of the plan on how to take over Casterly Rock, and we get kind of 2 separate scenarios of it. We get the way that they would expect them to go in, and I said this was like Helm's Deep with the ladders, but we're the orcs. It was very confusing for my brain. And then we see what his plan is. He has a secret passage that he's built to get his whores basically in past his father's guard and stuff, and they called it his Hodor on the internet. I was laughing about that. But so they used Tyrion's Hodor to infiltrate pretty much with much less resistance than they would have been met with usually. He's the only one who knows about that spot, and it came to good use. I don't think he necessarily figured it would be used for something like this, but it's certainly handy in this situation. And I liked the voiceover and stuff a lot in this part. I thought it was used really well, and that the editing and directing on this season has been outstanding. I liked the line particularly with the "Give me 10 good men and I'll impregnate the bitch," because that's something that
Bronn said that.
Bronn said, and so we got to shout out his buddy a little bit, who is ironically at this point fighting for the other side.
Yes.
Let me read my notes. I got ahead of myself. It says, "Where's the rest of the Lannisters?" We get up there and of them, and we turn. We see that Euron Greyjoy is there mashing up all the Unsullied ships that we had there, and we cut over to Highgarden, and all the Lannisters are there. I don't know about you guys, but I did not see this coming one bit. I was totally surprised, and I thought it was awesome. How were you feeling?
I was completely shocked, but I loved it. I thought it was brilliant the way they did it. I thought it was very smart, and you know, to show that Casterly Rock at this point didn't really mean anything, that what they were really going after was Highgarden and the Queen of Thorns.
Yeah, and I liked that, we'll get to it, but it's like Whispering Wood. He Whispering Wooded them. He learned from his mistakes, yeah. Yep. And I think this was a good play, because he's also they're not gonna have the resources to hold Casterly Rock anyway. Where are you at with this?
I like that, knowing that High Garden's not known for its military, that they didn't concentrate on the fight, and that Jaime kind of just walked right in.
Yeah, it was a really smart plan. It was excellent.
It was.
And he outsmarted Tyrion, which I don't think I ever thought he would do. No. So they weren't going to dilly-dally with showing us any of this battle. We are assuming that they got beat up fairly easily. That's never been their strong suit. And he goes straight up to greet one of my favorite characters of all time, Olenna Tyrell, the Queen of Thorns. And she basically starts out by quoting the Reigns of Castamere. Like, she knows she's done. He pours a couple glasses of wine and he brings it to the table. And he basically admits that he let them take Casterly Rock and that this was his plan and he was doing a Whispering Woods move. And she's not beating around the bush with this either. She's like, how are you going to take me out? Like, what's the plan here? And he's like, well, Cersei wanted to do this, that, and every other horrible thing to you, but I talked her out of those. And he takes out a bottle of poison and pours it into her glass, which is part. And one of the few times that we're going to actually get to see Jaime killing one of the enemies here, too. Certainly in a very long time. And he assures her that it's going to be painless and that it's not going to be that bad. And she drinks down the poison. She's not messing around. She's like, okay, let's get it over with. But she knows she has a few minutes, so she says, your sister's a monster. You know that. She's going to be the end of you, which I liked. That feels very foreshadowy, particularly on this show. She's a disease. I regret my role in spreading it, and you will too. And then she confesses to Joffrey's murder. Tom and I did see this coming the second we saw Jaime heading for the room. Tom was on it like instant. And it didn't make it any less enjoyable to watch. She gave one of my favorite performances on the entire show. I thought she nailed what the Queen of Thorns is about based on the book. She was amazing. And of all the deaths on this show, she finished with the upper hand because she says, I want you to tell Cersei that I did it. You know, I had never, like, she gives a great speech about watching Joffrey die, and she'd never seen the poison work itself, but she didn't want to go out like that. And now that she knows that she's not going to, it's even more, like, delightful for her to take pleasure in giving Jaime this last stab before she goes out. What do you think about this scene?
She is the best. She's the only person to actually get kind of satisfaction in her own death scene.
Eric?
I think it was absolutely amazing, and I think it was so fitting that she would get one last thing on Jaime before she died. That is the Queen of Thorns. That was the absolutely perfect to have her admit that to Jaime. And it makes me wonder, do you think if Jaime had known that, he would have given her a more painful death?
It probably would have been the Strangler instead of some, nameless poison.
I mean, I was half expecting him to pull out the sword anyway because it is named Widow's Wail. And she's dressed like a widow.
And she is a widow.
And she is, well, her husband died way before this.
Yeah.
But I think there was a chance for him to kind of get that vengeance, but he didn't take it, and I just think that's fitting for what Jaime is becoming because he's kind of like a reluctant hero.
Yeah, and I also think he was so in shock as well. He was not expecting to hear up.
So before we get to the next segment, let's take a look at the chat and see what they have to say. Anything else about this episode that we missed, do you think, Eric, or that we didn't say enough about?
We covered everything good with Dany and Tyrion and the whole Melisandre thing, the Greyjoy stuff, King's Landing. I can't sing the praises of Diana Riggs. Good she was as the Queen of Thorns. I mean, I can go on all night about that. This was definitely one of my favorite episodes, not just of the season, of the series. It would definitely make my top 10 list 100% and probably my top 5 list. It was that good.
Oh, yeah, I fully agree. So going in, speaking of Diana Riggs, Dub wishes that she had a chance to have a dramatic lesbian scene with Melisandre.
In old form.
And I assume. Marco is wondering how Arya is going to actually get into Winterfell. She's going to sneak in under the radar and then make her presence known. Is she going to just be open like Bran was? I did see a good thing about it earlier, but I missed
I actually thought it might have been Arya. I actually thought it might have been Arya at the gate for a second. When they told Sansa someone was at the gate. For a split second, I thought
knew it was either
maybe
Arya
it was Arya.
But I think because we hadn't seen Bran in so long, I was expecting Bran because Arya.
Yeah.
All right, well, next segment. You want to pull that up?
Yeah.
All right, well, I don't have the sound effect, but caw, caw, I'm a raven, caw.
Corn. That's what...
Corn. King. We have a poll, and what was this week's poll about, Kimber?
This week's poll was, what is the biggest loss that Dany's super team has suffered so far? And I'm going to do them, I guess, in order from least percentage to highest. At 3%, we had the Sand Snakes. No one is sad to see them go. I'm surprised they even have 3%. At 19%, we had Yara and her fleet. Definitely a blow for the team, and I love Yara, so we'll see what happens to her. No news on that yet. The Unsullied Navy coming in at 29%. Those guys are trapped and in a bad situation. Can they save themselves? We'll find out. And at 48%, we have the Queen of Thorns herself, Olenna Tyrell, full of wisdom, sage advice, money, and resources. So I agree with the poll on that one.
What did you think, Eric?
I'd have to say the fleet. I'd have to say you're in the fleet. I mean, that's a pretty big loss. I mean, losing the Queen of Thorns that's a big loss too, but you need a fleet.
Yeah, but at least if they still had Olenna, she could have bought another fleet.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
At least the fleet didn't pick up the Dornish army yet, and that could have been a lot bigger loss.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I hope Euron carries out the, or not Euron, Theon carries out the mission, but I doubt he's going to do anything.
Yeah, I think he's going to go totally back to being Reek, for at least a while.
Yeah, I do too. Unfortunately.
All right. Well, the next segment, as we all know, if you're a follower of the show, is I Will Be Your Champion. We're going to name the champions of this episode the Queen's Justice. Kimber, what did you think?
I have to pick the Queen of Thorns. I think that she went out with a bang, and she finished winning the argument as she always did. And really, like, honestly, she was old. She didn't have too much to lose. Her family was gone. She fought the good fight, and she lost. And I just think she was a badass, dude. And, like, I can't pick anyone but the Queen of Thorns on this episode.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to say that my champion was the same thing, Olenna. She was just so boss. Not many characters get to, with that kind of poise at the end. You know what I mean? Usually it's like their head's cut off before they even realize what's going on.
Yeah.
Delisha agrees. Olenna's great. Cersei is a runner-up. This is definitely one of her best seasons for Cersei.
Dany was my runner-up. I thought she was really strong this episode. Where were you at with this, Eric?
I have to also go with the Queen of Thorns. I mean, from her very first scene in season 3 to her final scene, she completely commanded the screen. And to get that, as I said, that one last jab, like that one last thing in about she killed Joffrey was perfect. She was my champion. I will miss her greatly.
Me too.
All right. Well, if you heard the little jingle jangle in the background there, we know it's time for the shame bell, which is the opposite of the champion. Who are we shaming this week, Kimber?
I am shaming Brandon Stark, hands down. You haven't been seen in such a long time by your sister. She's so happy to see you. You're wooden as fuck. You're talking about her rape. You're bringing down the pacing of the episode. Shame on you, Brandon Stark. Shame, shame, shame.
My shame bill goes to Kimber. Give Brandon a break, man. He's detached as all hell. You don't know what he's been experiencing. I think it's fitting, but that doesn't mean that the performance was a little weak. So I do, like, as much as I love the character flaw or the character design, I will agree that it did slow down the episode, and I think he deserves it more than anyone else.
So you're shaming Bran?
Only because I think everyone else did such a good job.
Well, shame him with me. Shame. Eric?
I am going to have to follow suit. He definitely gets my shame, especially for bringing up the rape night. So I don't have a bell, but shame to you, Brandon Stark. You did not have to bring that up to Sansa. There was plenty of other memories, buddy.
We just would like to thank Mavis for donating her collar tonight, so we would have a bell.
For the bell.
Thanks, Mavis.
All right, well, that's pretty much our episode. Before we take a few callers, we want to put up our contact card here. Cal's on vacation. Don't tweet him any spoilers about this episode, but let him know that we didn't burn this show to the ground. I'm sure he would appreciate that.
Please tell him I did an okay job of filling in. I know he wants to
Oh, you
know.
did great. Let's see. There's me at Odd Shape Panel. Kimber is at KimberBatch_OSP. And you can check out our website, oddshapechannel.com, for recent live links and our archive. And
Eric as well at mmkoch200.
You got it.
Also, thank you to Janine for the Night's Watch logo and title card. And thank you for Shreep's music for the theme song. Eric, before we get some callers in here, do you want to tell them what you do?
Yes, I also host a Game of Thrones recap show called Mine is the Fury. Of course, the title is inspired by Kimber, and the next episode will be tomorrow. I'm going to record it tomorrow. Tom already did the thumbnail, did a wonderful job. You'll all get to see that. So definitely check out Mine is the Fury. It'll be out tomorrow.
Yes, and you, for some reason, haven't subscribed to Eric's channel yet. The link is below in the descript, so please check that out. And if you do subscribe, make sure you just visit it and check out the other videos he's done. All right, so
I'll be 1 second.
I'm all alone now. I better fix that. We should get some callers. Who is interested in calling in? We'll take 2 at a time. Just be respectful of each other. And we'll try to get a bunch of people in tonight. Do we have just a general thing we want to talk about for each? Just
Whatever
best moment? We're going to talk about the best moment. So I'm going to mess up my hair really badly.
Yeah, laundry got done. I had to turn the dryer back on.
All right, well, we're going to, we decided that we're going to pick our favorite moment when we bring these callers in. Billy says he's going to call in, and we'll bring in one more. But while we're waiting for the callers, Eric, what was your favorite moment?
Oh, there were so many, but I have to go with the Queen of Thorns, the way she went out. Definitely. Her death.
Yeah, I agree. Also, the Euron kind of shutting down Jaime right in front of not only Cersei, but everyone else. It was definitely clever. I like that.
Oh, thank you, Billy, in the chat. Billy said I did fine, even though I like Stannis.
I think you brought up Stannis.
Everybody should like Stannis.
At the time.
So, oh, here he is.
Billy,
what's up, buddy?
What's up, guys?
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
How bad did I screw up the image portion of Night's Watch? Cal, man, he does a really good job.
I mean, you just had the big box on the outside. Aside from that, the cues were fine.
That's all I can. I can only do what. What was your favorite part, Billy?
No, I would be worse. Trust me. But no, my favorite part was the final scene with Lady Olenna Tyrell. I mean, Dame Diana Rigg. She's always been a great actress, and like Eric said, from her first scene of the 3rd season to her last, you are completely focused on her. She commands it with her wit and wisdom and just how much she just knows what she's doing. And I didn't expect her to just go like, I want Cersei to know it was me, and just down that wine like taking a shot or something. But that was my favorite scene. Some great acting just all around in this episode. My second favorite would probably have to be Cersei and well, you know, giving Ilaria Sand the punishment. Some great acting from the actresses who played Ilaria and Tyen, you know, because they really did look like they were scared out of their minds, and rightfully so. And Lena Headey, of course, great as always. But my favorite is the Queen of Thorns, her final goodbye.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
completely agree with you, buddy.
I would also like to point out what is Jamie thinking right now? Because not only is Olenna responsible for her son's death, but she's responsible for Tyrion being framed for the murder. That his father would possibly still be alive in this case. The other, like, there's so much fallout just from that poisoning.
The Red Viper would be alive.
Yes, Oberyn would be alive.
Which means Marcella would be alive.
Which means
the
Marcella
Mountain
would be alive. Everyone would be happy. Well, the Mountains wouldn't be happier. I guess he might be because he's not like a zombie. But do we have any predictions for next week?
What I have to say first is some sacrifices have to be made. They ended up being useless, or yeah, they ended up not amounting to anything. But yeah, and predictions for next week. I think Daenerys is just going to be like, no, screw it. I'm going to do what I want. And she's probably going to ride a dragon. That's a safe bet.
Yeah, I think she's going to just go kind of crazy and just want out some of the Cersei's army a little bit, hurt her, because Dany's taking some hits so far.
She lost her biggest advantage with everybody, and yeah, it's not the morally right choice, but as we know in Game of Thrones, when you try to do the morally right thing, you die or you suffer for it. And Daenerys is going to learn that lesson, or I think she has learned that lesson the hard way.
Let me ask you.
Michelle in chat here is asking if we think Bran is going to tell Sansa what Littlefinger is up to, but I think Littlefinger has already kind of told Sansa what Littlefinger is up to. I think he kind of blew his cover a little bit.
Yeah,
he might give some insight to things in the past that Littlefinger has done. That's for sure, because he was involved with Ned's death and all kinds of other unsavory stuff. Jon Arryn's death, the whole thing. So so maybe
he killed Jon Arryn.
Yeah, he started the whole thing.
And that throne at the Eye, or whatever, the Eyrie.
Oh, Lysa.
Isn't that a werewolf tree? That throne?
Yeah, I think it is.
So
yeah,
that would be validation.
But yeah, so I think she could get some backstory on him that would certainly be insightful. Yeah, she says that's what I meant. So yes, I agree. That could happen. I'm really looking forward to the conversation with Jamie and Cersei about what Olenna said. How do you think she's going to react, Billy?
She's either not going to care or she's going to overreact. I mean, by this point, she's already dead, so there's really nothing I can do. My son's dead. I don't care. Or she's just going to, like, flip a table or something. I don't know. I would love to see, like, an angry just Cersei destroying everything. That would be awesome, but I don't feel like that would be in line with her character. At this point in the show, it wouldn't be in line with her character, because if it was old Cersei, she would just overreact and all that stuff.
I think Cersei definitely does care. I thought one of the most impactful lines of dialogue from her was when she was torturing Ilaria, and she was like, "Why did you do that? Like, you took her away from me. Why did you do that?" Like, she snapped back into old Cersei. She obviously cared a lot about Marcella, and you could see it in that scene. What about you, Eric? How do you think she's going to respond?
I think more like option one. I don't think she's going to completely flip out, but she's still going to say he still murdered our father, and I still hate him.
Yeah,
I don't think she's going to be that all that upset.
Tyrion at all, but do you think maybe she'll feel a little bit of guilt in causing some of this domino effect?
Yeah, I think a tiny bit. She's probably going to be like, okay, he didn't kill Joffrey, but she's always hated him, so she still will always have a reason to hate Tyrion. As she said, he killed her mother the day he was born, so it's not like he'll ever get back in her good graces whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'm sure she still believes that he's going to kill her eventually as well, because of even though they don't really deal with that part of the Maggie the Frog prophecy, we know in the books that she's predicted that.
The Valkyr.
Yeah. So.
What if she offers?
My theory with that is still that it's going to be Jaime. I mean, excuse me, that it's going to be Tyrion. A lot of people think it's going to be Jaime, but I still think it will be Tyrion.
Yeah.
Or Arya wearing a face. What if she offers Tyrion a pardon based on new evidence just to get him in there, but ends up killing him?
She could do that, but I doubt that he would fall for a ruse like that. Yeah, he's too smart for that move.
Yeah,
I hope
that's true.
Yeah, I'm wondering if she's gonna lash out at Jaime because he's there, like kill the messenger type situation.
Well, I mean, in the books, Jaime even said Joffrey deserved it. So that's really bad when your own father is like, yeah, I don't care. I mean, I understand. She's of course gonna feel a lot of guilt and stuff because Joffrey was her son, and I agree with you. I just feel like she's just gonna. It's either gonna be one of two ways, and I'm really interested to see it. And it's probably gonna be again some great acting from Lena Headey because she's one of the best actresses on the show, hands down. But on an unrelated note, I just gotta say this: fuck Bran. I wanted to hit that kid right in the face. I mean, you don't ever do that. Literally any moment in Game of Thrones history, and you picked that one. That was like not
worst
cool,
night of her life.
dude. Not cool.
What I want to ask you guys is, I was a little unsettled that Cersei just had poison on her lips, and then the first thing she decided to do was go kiss Jaime on the mouth and blow him. Like, that's the long goodbye. Long farewell or whatever, like that.
That's true. She had to take an antidote despite.
Yeah, she had to take an antidote for that. Like, what is the risk factor? Like, are we worried about?
I mean, if she blew him first, I maybe would understand that maybe it would come off on.
Either way, candle burning at both ends.
Private area, I don't know, but that's a good point.
Shell agrees on that.
That's a good point. No, Billy, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think Danny? Now, hindsight's 20/20, of course. Do you think Danny made a mistake, not just going right into King's Landing immediately?
Absolutely, absolutely. She had the advantage. She could have taken it. Jaime even says in the episode, "My sister is going to make some place that is. She's going to make peace." Do you think that they're going to care how they do it? Because remember, Robert and Ned, they went into King's Landing. They probably murdered a lot of people. Nobody really cared. I mean, yeah, there's going to be consequences. Like, of course, people are going to die either way. So trying to prevent that just makes it worse. And trying to take the moral high ground is terrible when you have an easy win, too. Especially an easy win.
I mean, like Davos points out, he's like, we almost took King's Landing, and we didn't even have 3 dragons, and we almost took it.
Almost.
So I think she would. I know, I did like that moment when Tyrion's like, almost, but I do think she kind of made a mistake and should have listened to Yara.
I just hope she learns from her mistakes.
took it.
I
I'm
think
sorry.
we're gonna start wrapping this up here. Thanks so much for Billy for calling in, of course. Did you want to plug where people can find you real quick?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at bbusterbill. All the B's are capitalized. You can find me on Instagram, blockbusterbill, but the B's are not capitalized. I'm going to be doing some voice work soon, and I swear I'm working on those blogs whenever I have time, and I'm going to do something with MacPool soon. That's going to be pretty awesome. I'm just very busy now, and it's hectic, but I will always be found here as well on OSP and on the Odd Shaped channel. And yeah, I love talking about Game of Thrones. So
Awesome. Well, we will definitely see you next week. I'm sure it'll be another good one.
absolutely. All right.
See you later,
See you,
Billy.
buddy.
All right, so to wrap things up, I've been Tom.
I've been Kimber.
You can tweet at me at OddShapePanel.
I'm at Kimberbatch_OSP on Twitter.
And our buddy Eric is at
Koch, that's Koch 200 on Twitter, and you can let me know what you think. Let me know if I did a good job, a bad job, whatever you think. I want to hear it.
And be sure to check out his recap when it drops on Mine is the Fury. Again, that link is
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. It is in the description.
A new episode.
It's going to be great. So we're going to go ahead and play the outro music, and we wish you all a lovely night. Thank you so much for stopping by. Check out oddshapechannel.com if you're wondering what our next show is. It's Twin Peeps tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a good time, and we hope to see you there.
I almost did the health thing.
Nope, we got to save that. Goodbye.